It seems like part of the issues that are being brought up have to deal with a certain type of induction that's being made. And the evolutionary biologist seems to make the induction that, in the past, evolutionary biology has explained these, certain types of phenomena. And though certain types of phenomena aren't explained at present, they will be explained in similar ways to the ways that they've been explained in the past. Likewise, the intelligent design theorist seems to say something like, there are these phenomena that evolutionary theory has explained, and then there are other phenomena that they have not yet explained. That they have not yet explained this phenomena should lead us to induce that this phenomena cannot be explained by the way that evolutionary theory is attempting to explain it. I guess my question to you is, since you support evolutionary theory in its present form, why are we justified in making the inductive hypothesis that your theory would pose for us, as opposed to the inductive hypothesis that Dr. would pose for us?
All that's at stake whenever you have a particular scientific theory and you expect that this theory will continue to succeed in the future is all you can do is look at the history of the theory. If it were not the case that now, after 100 years or so, evolutionary theory can explain lots of things that you could not explain a generation ago, 2 generations ago, then there would be some grounds for skepticism, some idea that we should move on to something else, or consider the possibility that evolutionary theory will never explain something. We don't have that. And this is not something that never happens in the history of science. Let me give you an example of a case when there were some metaphysical principles that were seriously under question because of its inability to explain phenomena that were out there. And the example that I like to use in this context most is the example of Newton's law of gravitation and the mechanical philosophy of the 17th century, when the mechanical philosophy claimed that all interactions had to go through contact interactions between parts of matter, and there was a sharp contradiction. Newton's theory predicted that there was action at a distance, which was supposed to be impossible according to the mechanical philosophy. And that was a classic example of something that the mechanical philosophy could not explain generation after generation after generation. So by the mid-19th century, it had actually generated enough skepticism that the mechanical philosophy got redefined to include central forces. So that's the sort of circumstance in which I can see that having some unsolved problems on your plate should generate skepticism about the scientific discipline you're in. I certainly don't see that to be the case in the case of evolutionary theory. And in the case of intelligent design, I want to go back in and point out that their purely negative argumentation is not going to be good enough. For the project to get going, you need the positive program, you need actual cases of real models, real experiments, things that are done in the laboratory which cannot be explained by evolution. And eventually I will get back to all these cases of the orphan gene as well as the gut in my closing remarks. Those can be explained by evolution just as easily as anything else. So that's the answer.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll now take a question for Dr. Nelson.
You made the argument that evolution would fail to explain the complexity of life on Earth today because of the irreducible complexity of life.
Minimal complexity.
Or minimal complexity, yes, sir. By bringing up the analogy of a current organism, which requires some 300 odd proteins to exist. To continue, I guess, Dr. De Lorenz's analogy, that you would in fact be looking more for a Model T of life. For example, you would need a translational machinery for a RNA organism. You would in fact need a fewer number of proteins, correct? And
yeah.
Oh, sorry. Therefore, I guess my question would be, why would it be inconceivable that, given that organisms which are abiotic and extremely simple, or I guess just abiotic molecules, I guess, like a virus, undergo evolution and increase in complexity at a level that you can see even just in a few years today, that over the course of hundreds of millions of years, why would it be inconceivable for you to be unable to come up with the Model T of life?
I would agree with you that if I were trying to solve this puzzle, I would look for a lower threshold target, much simpler than, let's say, 250 to 300 proteins. But here's the problem. Because of the brevity of my presentation tonight, I was not able to give you the theoretical approach to the same question. But if you look at the number of essential functions that a cell performs, information transfer, selective transport across its boundary between itself and the world, metabolism, these functions turn out to be interconnected. And to perform them, the jobs of transport, let's say, and the jobs of information storage do not overlap as far as we know. So I would say that when you try to come up with your Model T cell, you find that you, both from a theoretical approach and from an experimental approach, you find that you are replicating cells that we know because of the pull of the known. We only can really analyze the life that we actually have. You have to provide a target for that bottom-up analysis, and that target is going to be something like a modern cell in the sense of performing essential functions. There's an ongoing experiment right now to try to synthesize life. Craig Ventnor and colleagues, a lot of people working on it, are going to try to synthesize a cell using an empty membrane and inserting DNA. And what they will discover, I predict, is that if you're going to have a cell at all, there's a minimal set of hardware that's required. And that lower threshold appears to be very robust. So while I agree with you that it would be nice to have a Model T, if you try to put flesh on the Model T, that's a mixed metaphor, I apologize, put nuts and bolts on the Model T, you find that you are going to be pulled back to the cells that we actually know.